Welcome to this section, and in this section we are going to start working with array. So this is the introductory lectures of array in C++. So before starting the array, we just need to understand that what is array. Any array is a collection of data elements that are of the same type. For example, a collection of integer, collection of characters, and the collection of doubles. So as you can see here on the screen, which is the image right here, so these are the indexed. You can see here currency, last trade, US. These are the currency symbols, and these are also the currency symbols right here with the names of month and the currency symbols. Okay, and this is the data what is available on the indexed. Okay, so these are called array. Means the collection of data elements that are of the same type. For example, collection of integer, collection of characters, and the collection of doubles. As you can see here, these are the collections of integer one, and these are the doubles value. You can see here, these all are the integer right here, and this is a collection of data. Then how to refer array element? We can refer array element by using the array subscript. The first element has a subscript of 0. Means when we just start indexing with array, so we just start from 0. The last element in an array of length n has subscript of n-1. When we write a program, we refer to an individual array element using indexing. To index a subscript, use the array name, and the subscript is a pair of sequence brackets. As you can see here on the screen, like a, and we have the 12 indexed of array right here. So this is a simple declaration of the array. As you can see here, we have the two types of array, or you just say that we have the three types of array, which are one-dimensional, two-dimensional, and three-dimensional. So one-dimensional array, like you can see here, the array in data available in one-dimensional only. And as you can see here, three-dimensional, so you can see here the data available in this form is in 3 dimensions. This available data is available in October 2015, October 2016, and October 2014. So you can see here, this is the 3-dimensional array in C++. So here we are just not using 3-dimensional array in our this course, because we just not need 3-dimensional array, but we can work with 2-dimensional array. Like you can see that the available data in rows and the column forms. Then here we just need to understand that why we need array. Suppose we need to store the marks of 50 students in the class and calculate the average marks. Declaring 50 separate variables will do the job, but no programmer would like to do so. And here comes the array in action. So that's why we are just using the array in our C++ programming language or any programming language. So this is a simple introductory of array. In next lecture, we are going to proceed our example and check the real life programs with array. Thanks for watching this lecture. Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to talking about the array in C++. So an array is a collection of data that holds fixed number of values of same type. For example, if you want to store mark of 100 student or 50 student, you can create an array of 50 student, like you just write float, or you just write integer marks, and this is a bracket to declare an array, and you just write 100 student of array right here. The size and the type of array cannot be changed after the declaration. Remember that. As I just told you that we have two types of array, which is one-dimensional array and the multi-dimensional array. In multi-dimensional array, we have the 2D array and 3D array. Now, how to declare an array right here? First of all, you just write data type, then array name, and then you just write array size, that how much size you just need to declare an array. So this is a simple declaration of an array right here. So here we just declare the array like integer and marks, which is 100. So simply we just declare the array of 100 students, means it hold 100 integer values. So the element of an array, like you can access element of array by index, mean by indexed. Suppose you declare an array mark, like declare array marks like this one. So the first element is marks in 0. So it will start from the first element to 0 and it will go up to 99. Okay, and then so on, how much array you want to create. So how the array index will check, you just write mark 0 and this is the index number 0, and then you just write marks 1 and then here the index number 1. So it will go like this stage, so because this is the single dimensional array. Some of the key notes of the array means when you are just declaring the array, so keep in the mind that array has 0 as the first index, not 1, like this example is you can see here. So if the size of an array is n, to access the last element n minus 1, index is used, as you can see here, like this one. Suppose the starting address of mark 0 is like any address, like mark 0 address is here, like we have the address 2120D. Okay, so this is the address of that one. Then the next address of this mark 1 will be 2124D. Okay, the address of 2n will be the 4D, and up to so on, and it will go after 2128D. So simply it's take the 4 bytes. Okay, and sorry, it is an integer, so it's take 2 or 4 bytes. You can see here integer is take 2 or 4 byte, and if it is short, so it will take 2 bytes, and if it is float, so it is also take 4 byte. So the address of that array will go like this conditions. Okay, so how to initialize an array? It is possible to initialize an array during the duration declaration. So you just simply write int marks, and here marks of 5 students, and which is equal to, so you just declare the marks of that, like 19, 15, 20, 13 and 40. So these are the marks of these 5 students. So you just declare with these curly brackets. Okay, so let's just see the example of that array. So here I just simply write hash include. So I think you just understand what I just said about the arrays. So if you not understand, please let me know. And then using namespace, and we just go to the integer main function. Okay, now here I just define the integer marks, the marks of 3 students right here. Then I just take float average, because we just always take the average in the float, because averages always come in the points. So that's why I just take float right here, and cout, which is enter marks of first student, and then I just write end line right here, cn, and here I just write marks on index number 0. As I just told you that array always starts from the indexed 0. Now cout marks of second student, and here the array index is 1. Then mark of third student, and the array here is 2. So it will take the user input of array like 2. Now here I just create a data type of float, means I just take the integer which is average. So I just write average here, and average is a data type of float which is equal to, and here I just write bracket, then mark number 0, then I just write plus, then marks number 1, then I just write plus, then marks number 2, and this value divided by 3.0. So this is a simple formula of average. So Cout, and the Cout right here is, I just write average marks. Okay, and then here I just write average, so it will print the average right here, and then end line and close this code right here. Now return 0. So now I just run this code, and this is the average right here. Cout. Okay, so this is Cout, and now I just run this code. So 12, 13, 14, and the average mark here is 13. So as you can see here, I just create the size of an array which is 3D. You can see a first student, second student, and third student. Then I just create an integer, I just create a variable which is the float for finding the average. Then I just create the user input, and then for mark number 0, 1, 2. So this is index number 0, index number 1, and index number 2. Okay. Then I just create a formula to find the average. So average is equal to marks. So marks 0, 1, 2, 3, and then Cout simply the average marks and the average. So output is average marks are 13. So let's just explain this example again. So 2 points should be kept in mind. The average value should be the type of float, because the average of integers can be float also. Secondly, while taking out the average, sum of the numbers would be divided by 3.0, not 3. Okay, so this is divided by 3.0, not 3. Otherwise you will get the average value as an integer, not float. So that's why I just write 3.0 here. Okay, so this is a simple example in array. If you find any of the problem regarding to these arrays, please let me know. Thanks for watching this lecture. Welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are working with one another example to make clear your concept in arrays. So here I just take a start with this example. So here I just write hash include and iostream, and then using namespace std. Okay, now integer main. So this example I just create array with for loop. So here I just write integer n, and this is integer n, the array name, and the index size here is 10. So declaring an array as the array of 10 integers. Now I and j. So integer I and j here. Now here I just initializing the element of array n. So for loop, so I which is equal to 0, I which is less than 10, and I plus plus. Okay, now Cout here is, I just write enter value of n. Okay, and then here I just write I, and then here I just write j. j. So not j, it's a bracket what I just create here, and this is the bracket. So end line and close this code here, and then cin, which is n, and the array index, which is I. Okay, close this code, and now here I just write for loop again for printing the value of element of an array with the help of this for loop. So j, which is equal to 0, and then j, which is less than 10, and j plus plus. Now here I just write cout, and the cout here is, I just write n, and then here I just write j and close this bracket. Okay, now n, which is the index of j, so it will print the index of j right here, and then end line. Okay, now I just write here return 0. Okay, so now just check the output for this code, and here, yes, now I just check again. So number of n digits in means number of enter the value of n, which is 0, and the value will be between in 10. So here I just write 2. So enter the value of n, which is 1, 2, and 3, 6, 5, 4, 9, 9, 52, and 10. So you can see here it's print every indexed array. So in this example, we just to make you similar with using loop within array, because you can be doing this many times later. The code is simple, like I and j start from 0, because the index of an array start from 0 and goes up to 9 here. You can see here in this start from 0 and goes up to 9 here for the elements of 10. So I and j goes up to 9 and not 10. So I is less than 10, and here you just see j, I is also less than 10 and j is also less than 10 right here. So in this code, n and index of I right here, so you can see here, which is our user input, will be take 10 inputs. I just take 10 inputs right here. For there are two for loops in this example, as you can see here, for loop and for loop. So in first for loop, we are taking the value of the different elements of the array from the user one by one. And in the second for loop, we are just printing the value. You can see here we just printing the value of this j right here and this loop here. Okay, let's go to the first loop. So in the first iteration, the value of I is 0, and so n of I you can see here, and thus by writing cin means writing cin right here, so the user will ask to enter the value of index 0. Similarly, in the second iteration, and the value of I will be 1. So n of I will be the n of 1 when you just enter the 1 right here. You can see here this is the n of 1. So array allocates the continuous memory. Thus, if the address of the first element of an array of integer is x, then the address of the second element will be x plus 4. 4 is the size of one integer, and the third will be x plus 4 plus 4, and so on. This means that the memories of all elements of an array are allocated together and are continuous. So this is a simple example of an array in C++. If you find any of the problem regarding to this lecture and you just not understand anything in this lecture, please let me know. Thanks for watching this lecture. Welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to learn about the passing the whole array in a function. In C++ we can pass an element of an array or the full array as an argument to a function. Let's just see how this works. So here I just write hash include input out stream, then using namespace std, then integer main, and here I just write integer n, and then which is equal to, here I just write the value which is 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Okay, and then I just go to declare a function, so void and display. So this is our function name, and here I just pass the parameters which is int a. Okay, now here I just write cout and cout which is a, and then end line. Okay, so it will print the a right here. Now here I just call a function, so display, and the display here is n of 2. Okay, and then close this code right here, and then I just write return 0. Okay, and close with the brackets, and yes, semicolon. Okay, and semicolon. Okay, now I just run this code, and as you can see here, the array value on the index number 2 here is 40, so 0, 1 and 2. So we can also pass the whole array to a function by passing the array name as an argument. Yes, the trick is that we will pass the address of an array, that is the address of the first element of an array, thus by having the pointer of the first element, and we get the entire array as we done in this example you can see here. Okay, so this is a simple example of the array passing the whole function. Okay, so as you can see here in this code, I just simply define a function to outside the main body, and then integer a, this is our parameter right here, so I just simply print the value of a. Okay, now here I just call this function and display n, and I just ask that print the array on the index number 2 with the help of this function. Okay, so this is a simple example of the functions and the array, and if you find any of the problem regarding this lecture, please let me know. Thanks for watching this lecture. Welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to talking about the multi-dimensional array in C++. The simplest form of the multi-dimensional array is two-dimensional. It's two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional array is an instance, a list of an one-dimensional array. Two-dimensional arrays are generally known as the matrix, which is consist of the rows and the columns. Before going into its applications, let's first see how to declare and initialize the 2D array. As you can see here, like on the screen, we have the rows and the columns. So this is a simple simple syntax, as you can see here, how this 2D arrays work. So these are our rows, the values of the rows, and these are the columns. Okay, so it's work like this one, rows and the columns. Let's just see the initialization of the 2D array. Same as a 1D array, we can assign the value to the two-dimensional array in two ways. So in first method, we assign the value to the element of the array. If no value is assigned to an array, any element, then its value is assigned 0 by default. Suppose we declare a two-dimensional array like here, a, which is 2 and then 2. Okay, so this is simple syntax of the two-dimensional array. Okay, and it's also look at as a matrix. Then the second method is, so this is our first method, then second method is integer a 2 3, and which is equal to, I just assign this value 1 3 2 2 4 5 6 and up to so on, as just want to give any of the value right here. Okay, here the value of a2 and the a3 is 1, and the value of 0 indexed here is 1, the value of true index here is 32 and up to so on. While assigning the value to an array at the time of the declaration, there is no need to give the dimension in one-dimensional array. But in 2D array, we need to give at least second dimension. Okay, let's just see how this array works, and let's just see the application of this array. So this program is, suppose we have 3 students in each studying 2 subjects, means subject number 1 and subject number 2, and we have to display the mark in the both of the subject of 3 students. Let's just see this type of program. Hash include rstring using namespace std, then integer main here. Okay, now here I just write float is a data type here, and the marks, then 3 and 2. Okay, there is 3 students and the 2 subjects. Okay, now integer I and integer j. So for loop here is I which is equal to 0, I which is less than 3, and I plus plus. Simple syntax of the for loop. Then cout, which is enter marks of a student, and here I just write I plus 1, and then end line. Okay, so this is the input of the marks from the user. Okay, and then here I just write for loop again for the iterations of j which is equal to 0, j which is less than or 0. These are the subjects right here, and then j plus plus. Okay, now here I just write cout, and the cout here is I just write subject. Okay, and then j plus 1 and end line. Now here I just write cin to input the subject, and then input the marks here, and then I, and then j. Okay, now here I just print the mark of the student with the help of for loop again. So I just take for loop again, and then here I just write I which is equal to 0, I which is less than 3, and I plus plus. Okay, now cout here is I just write marks of student, and then I just write I plus 1. Okay, and then end line. Now just go to the for loop again, and for loop j which is equal to 0, and then j which is less than 2, and j plus plus. Now cout here is I just write subject, then j plus 1, and here I just write colon sign for simply the string output here, and then marks which will print I and j. Okay, and then end line. Now I just write that return 0. Okay, so in this example, finally we define our array consisting of 3 rows and 2 columns as the value of or the data types of float, which is mark 3 and 2. Here element in the array will contain the marks of 3 students in the 2 subject as like student number 1, 2, 3. Let's just check the output and then discuss this code. And float and here miss this sign, and miss this sign here too. And you can see here mark of number 1 subject, so 20, 30 and 40, and then 40, okay, and 50, 50, and you can see here the marks of that. So let's just discuss these. So in this example you just see here that the marks of student number 1, student number 2 and student number 3, the subjects, 2 subjects right here, okay. So these are the 3 students and the 2 subjects, so these are the marks of that student and the subjects, okay. So in the first iteration, the outer of the loop value of I is 0, while the value of I is as 0. When the inner of the loop first iterates, the value of j becomes 0, and thus the marks of I and the j becomes marks 0 and 0 in writing Cn right here, okay. You can see here, where is the Cn? Yes, here, okay. We are discussing this point. So now marks of I and j, we are taking the value of marks here is 0 and 0 at that iterations. After the inner of the loop, again iteration value of j becomes 1 and the mark of I and j becomes 0 and 1 at the value is taken from the user at that stage, okay. After that, the inner of the loop again iterates and the value of j becomes 1 and the marks value of I and j becomes 0 here, as I just told you. Then the outer of the loop iteration for the second time and the value of I becomes 1, and the whole process will continue like this one. So 1, 2 and 3, okay. So 0, 1, 2, and this is means after assigning the value to the elements of an array, we are printing the value of the elements of the array in the same way using another for loop inside the for loop. As you can see here, first of all, this loop is simply for taking the user input and then iteration of I plus 1, so it's taking simply the value right here, and then here, and then these for loop are simply giving us the output right here, okay. So this is a simple example of the 2-dimensional array in C++. If you find any of the problem regarding to this lecture, please let me know, because this 2-dimensional array is very much important in C++, and this is very much using in data structure and algorithm. So that's why it's very important to make your concept right here. So if you not understand any of the thing in this lecture, please let me know. I will explain again and again for you. Thanks for watching.